All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Chef Life Live. I, of course, am your host, Chef Alex Ottusch, and Chef Life Live is where I interview people of the food service industry to give them a platform to tell their own story, because everyone's got such an interesting one in the food service industry. And so I'm just here trying to shed a little light on that. I'm very excited to have my guest, Chef Diana, tonight. She is the executive chef and owner of Tocaya here in Logan Square, actually right around the corner from my apartment. I actually tried to get a burrito from there tonight before the show started and didn't realize that they weren't even open tonight. And so my order will be ready on Thursday. So looking forward to that on Thursday. But so Tocaya here in Logan Square neighborhood. She is a native of the Chicago suburbs, grew up in kitchens and began working in her parents' taqueria at the age of 10. She began her professional career at her family's upscale dining concept, Hacienda Jalapeños, where she received high praise in the form of a 2-star review from Phil Vettel at the Chicago Tribune and was called a Mexican marvel by the Chicago Sun-Times. So pretty big deal. Her food is really good, and I'm really excited to have her on. So let's get to know her just a little bit better. Hello.
Hi, everyone.
How are you doing tonight?
Good.
Are you happy that it's actually still light out right now? If I'm pretty sure the sun was still kind of shining.
I am. It's a huge difference. At the restaurant, it's all windows, and so, looking up and it's like, oh, it's 6:30, and look at the sun's still out. Just feels really good.
It does, yeah. It's always upsetting in winter, fall times, and it's like 4 o'clock and the sun's already setting. It's like, it's that late already?
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's not. So it's always just that nice reprieve when it's just still sunny out. And it's, yeah. And today the weather was so nice. It's been really warm, which has been great. So finally out of that, hopefully out of the
patio season.
Yeah, patio season, patios and rooftops. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. So I guess we can kind of jump right into it here. So you grew up here in Chicago and, you worked in your parents' restaurant, but what was like one of your favorite meals that either your mother or your father, either one, would cook when you were a kid?
There was like go-to dishes that my mom and my dad would make, and they're both actually really good cooks. I would say that for my dad, it was his caldos. He would always make caldos, whether it was a beef caldo or chicken caldo. My beef was my favorite that he would make. And then also he would make sort of like when everybody's like, oh, there's no food in the house, there's nothing to eat. And he would make guisados, which are basically like stews, like quick one-pot stews, like all of a sudden we'd like turn around and it'd be like this delicious stew where he just took anything and everything that was in the fridge and made it into a quick stew. So that definitely from him. And then my mom, she would always actually be cooking different things. I think I was kind of lucky in that regard. All the women in my family kind of always loved to cook. And they always read about cooking and were always like, oh, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. So in general, I think I would say all of the new things that my mom would always make.
Yeah, all the experimenting and stuff. Nice. That's a nice mug you have there.
I took your advice and opened up a bottle of the sparkling rosé I told you about. So
nice.
Salud.
Salud. I have champagne. I don't have. And so you, excuse me, you grew up in the Chicago area. What was the food scene like, growing up here, and how did that differ from you going back to Mexico?
So same thing. I got to give it up to my parents. I mean, they were pretty. They've always been very super cool. I mean, one of my favorite things that we would do is go out. We would do like a downtown extravaganza about once a month, and it would be in the summer. And like I said, my mom really always loved sort of reading about cuisine, and she would use Chicago Magazine to like be like, oh, what's the new it restaurant? What's the new opening or the new review? And let's make a reservation and let's go. And it's like a family party of 5.
Yeah.
And we would spend like the whole day downtown. It would be always going for a bike ride on Lakeshore, and then we would do brunch at like a fancy place. I remember doing like brunch at Drake, at the Drake,
Nice.
and then going for a bike ride, and then like just stopping by anywhere and anything that we would fancy. We're like, oh, let's, that place looks interesting. Let's go there.
Yeah.
We would eat at like 4, 5 different places.
Wow.
And it would be pretty spectacular. And so I would say like food scene to me was always like, I feel like I was always in love with Chicago, and I was always in love with all like the food scene, because we would go to, the trendy restaurants, to like the old school like establishments, to the mom and pop places. And at the end on our way home, we would always stop at 18th Street and be like, tacos? Should we stop and get tacos? And it's like, I don't even know why we would still ask. I mean, we would do this all the time.
Yeah.
But we would always stop with some tacos before we would for supper, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds pretty great. Julie's saying that sounds like the perfect Chicago day. I would definitely have to agree. That sounds really great.
Yeah.
Just to go downtown and just kind of spend the whole day eating. I mean, there's really, that's a great day. And to end with tacos and any day is always a good day in my book. And you spent a lot of your summers going to Mexico as well. Is that correct?
Yes. So my parents were working parents, and we really we don't have that much family here. My dad has 2 brothers. And so summers we would spend in Mexico with my aunt, my mother's sister. And we kind of would always just make our rounds. I mean, my father comes from a family, 11 brothers and sisters. So we would always kind of visit everybody.
Yeah.
And my aunt was a stay-home mom, and she had 3 sons, and then there's 3 of us. And so it was 6 kids. And so she would always have like cool things planned for us. They had like memberships at, 2 different like clubs, so we would be in like sports activities. We'd be doing always swimming. We'd be like going to Micos, which is like the waterfalls of San Luis, which is right by where my aunt lives. We would go to like hiking. We would go and really all over the place, to Veracruz for the beach, like really. And actually, the more and more I think about it, it was really, really cool, because we wouldn't go to when you have six kids, you wanted it to be economical as well. So like when we would go to like remote beaches and stuff like that, we'd stay in like little, huts. And I mean, it was just super cool. Super.
Yeah. That sounds really cool. That sounds really fun. So you traveled a decent amount, like within Mexico, like traveling there?
Yes.
Okay. Would you say that you have a favorite region in Mexico?
I mean, I would always say San Luis, because that's where, my family's from, and it's what I'm most familiar with. And, I think it's really sort of a cool place, because it's desert, but it has these pockets of tropical, where you'll see waterfalls and just like just so much greenery. And then also my family's from the Centro Histórico, like I guess Centro Histórico is like the historic sort of downtown, so it's always remembering walking everywhere. And like, like I got married in the church that my dad was a choir boy, where his parents got married.
Oh, wow.
So, and all the like festivities always happen there as well. So I'd say San Luis because of that, because I'm super sentimental. And other than that, sense. I mean, every place has its tiene su chiste. Every place has its like, I don't know, it's
own hidden gems and
specialness.
uniqueness.
So, like Oaxaca, Puebla, Monterrey, Zacatecas, Veracruz, Guadalajara. I mean, they're all beautiful and so different from every place, especially with land and food. It's spectacularly different.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I'm sure. I haven't been around enough in Mexico. I've only been to the more tourist areas, Cancun, Puerto Vallarta. I mean, it was great. I had a blast. Really good food every time I went. I'd definitely love to see more of Mexico, the different parts. Yeah, so I'll hopefully be able to do that someday.
This one time I was really upset because there was this like travel company that they take like groups of 10 and they're like, oh, do you want to plan a trip with us? And I was like, yes. And, I looked at their layout and I really wanted to take them to San Luis, like I had like planned all these sort of like cool things, like the waterfalls, like there's this hidden castle as well called Gilitla, which is like this super magical place of, just so many different things, including also like a cookout, like in one of my family's like historic houses.
Wow.
And they're like, no, and they ended up saying no. And they're like, no, can you do Oaxaca or Mexico City instead? And it's just like, no, it just felt really fake. It's like if I'm going to do a trip to New York, it's like, I'm not from there. Like, why am I going to show you around a town that's not like, do you know what I mean? Like, sure.
Yeah.
And I could pick out a place, but I don't know.
You'd want a local to show you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Last time I was in Mexico was about a year ago to the date. It was like in March, right before the pandemic, like really, really hit. And we were there when we were at a resort, and then we were out in town. And, there was, food carts and just stuff everywhere. And so, like, my fiance and I were just like, oh, we got to get the elotes and, like, chorizo tacos and all this stuff. And some of the people were like, oh, I don't know if we should. I was like, yeah, you definitely should. This is the food you need to be eating. And so it was just kind of funny how some people view certain areas or, are more adventurous than others. But, yeah, that's the best part of any trip for me is going to eat the local food, like where the locals go. But speaking more on food, now that you've been in the profession for a long time, I'm sure you've tasted so much food. Would you say that you have a favorite food now? And did you have a pandemic like guilty pleasure food or like shutdown guilty pleasure food?
Mm-hmm. So I mean, favorite food, cuisine wise, it's Mexican. I mean,
that's fair.
I think it's like it's my favorite, and I think it's definitely one of the best in the world. Go-to food that I would be ordering is these. I know I'm gonna say it wrong, so I won't even try to slaughter it. But it's the Vietnamese pancakes. The ones where they have like turmeric and like coconut, and it's like it looks like a large crepe, and inside has the bean sprouts, and I always get it with shrimp. And that's awesome. I order those by like 4 because I'm gonna want some more later on, and then tomorrow. And
right. Yeah.
So I'd say that, and my new sort of obsession is Luella's kitchen. I mean, I just love the way he cooks. It's just amazing. I mean, those flavors are just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, that all sounds really good. Is there like a Mexican ingredient that is really hard to find in the U.S. that you miss from Mexico?
I think I miss the cheeses the most. Here, you really don't have any Mexican cheeses. I mean, yeah, there's Mexican brands, but they're made with milk powder. They really just don't taste the same.
The same. Mm-hmm.
That's the thing about Mexico is that, the cheeses that you get in the market, these are cheeses that are being made by the local farmers, and they are all so wildly different. And you could ask them, oh, what kind of cheese is this? And we're like, oh, it's queso fresco or queso de rancho, or, and so they all are blanketed by this like same name, but they're also crazy different from one another. And so I would say definitely the cheeses.
That makes sense. I feel like that's how it is for probably a lot of people who come to the U.S. who, have really good cheeses in wherever they come from, their countries. Because, like, for whatever reason in the United States, we have a weird thing about how to make cheese properly. I mean, unless you're from Wisconsin, but
there's like cheese, but it's just different, and then also, I mean, these cheeses are also one of my favorite things about in these rural farmers and stuff is that, they're making all of these things with natural yeast that from the air, and so, they're not adding yeast, they're not making cheese like that. Like it's all just completely open. Same thing with like mezcal. I mean, open fermentation, all still, artisanal mezcal, open fermentation. I mean, I don't even know what the percentage is of actual spirits and wines that actually do that, but I would bet that I'd say fewer than 10% of everything that's out there. So it's just crazy beautiful. No added sugar, open fermentation, all things being made with like old world techniques. Mezcal should be way more expensive than what it is right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that's how a lot of things are with like those type of products that have so much care and consideration, like tradition put into them, but then they just have to like mark them down so much to keep up with market value or whatever it is. But it's just kind of
bullshit.
It's a bummer. Yeah, bullshit. That's correct.
Caca de toro.
Yeah. Okay, so as for being a pretty well-established chef, you must have a pretty awesome daily routine, or at least a really great way to start your day. So how do you start your daily productivity every morning? Like, what is it? What gets you out of bed? Yeah, how do you start your day to crush it?
Well, I have 2 kids, so with the kids now, I couldn't even remember before. I have 2 kids, and so my day always sort of starts early because of them. Getting them up, getting them ready, making breakfast or packing them lunch, or now, especially with the pandemic, like I followed the school schedule, and whether I am working from home while they're doing e-learning in case they need things, and then also, being their like lunch lady and try to do some physical activity, So right now it's still working from home. And then going into the restaurant later. And I mean, every day is so crazy different. I think that's the thing about this business. Every day is completely different, especially now with the, 2020, the pandemic. I couldn't even tell you when, like, that's definitely not the way my day was before, and I don't even remember it.
Right.
It's just, and now every day is so crazy because new information always gets put out there on a weekly basis. So where are we at? What are we doing? What do we need? Meetings, phone calls, trying to. Yeah, so I mean, every day is really different, but I do start my day with the CPS time.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, power to you. I don't know how you or anyone else who are running businesses on top of dealing with their kids through all of this, and I don't know. I have a dog, and just even with that, it's been wants to make me pull my hair out, and so I don't. Power to you guys. I don't know how you do it.
I'm also a woman, so that helps.
I know that. I mean, the whole thing. you're stronger. I tell you, I'd be lost with my fiance, with my dog and everything. Like I was barely making it with him, and so.
Well, good. Now you
I'm
have a
nothing.
partner, another partner.
I know it's really great. Okay, so last question before we dive a little deeper into some other questions. But music or silence when it comes to working in a kitchen for you?
It's a combination. I feel like when I was as a professional cook coming up, it was always silence, and I wouldn't say that I didn't not like that. I do like that. But at the restaurant, they sort of I think they pulled a fast one on me. There's always music on. But
Okay.
I will say whenever I am, they know that I always turn it off when I'm doing recipe testing and because to me, like I really need to focus into, it may sound fucked up, but like I want to be present. I want to hear my ingredients. I want to like listen to them. It's a whole thing. So I just prefer silence when I'm doing that.
Yeah,
I need to hear myself
that makes sense. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's time and place for music in the kitchen. It's always nice every so often, depending on the circumstance. But yeah, there's plenty of times, even for me, even when I was like kind of just starting out and I really wanted to listen to music and I understood the reason like why we didn't. It's like, all right, we really got to focus on what we're doing. So makes sense. But okay, so now that we've gotten to know you just a little bit better with some icebreaker questions, it's time for everyone's favorite section of questions, which of course requires no garnish. Okay, so I've been asking most of my guests this question because it's kind of interesting to hear the answer for especially someone like you who has done plenty of interviews and everything. But how do you feel about being interviewed and actually like talking about yourself, bragging on yourself, however you want to think about it? But how do you like?
I like it. I like doing interviews. I think that they're really fun, and I mean, I like talking about my work. My art, like I think that's really, I love sharing that, so I think that's, and I'm also sort of like an open book kind of a person. So I think it comes natural to me. So I like it a lot.
All right.
I don't like it when people are not prepared though. Like you actually did, there's sometimes when you get interviewed and they like did not even like you should probably know who you're interviewing, research them a little bit, know what so you could actually ask them and get something out of it. So boo to those people who don't do the work.
Right. But when I first started doing the show, like the very first guest I had on was a friend who I had worked with before. And so and it's not like he had that much publication about him, so I couldn't really do that much research. And some of my guests I can't really do research on, but yeah, for certain guests I definitely poke around Facebook and Instagram and try to have something prepared.
Yeah.
And then I do cheat a little bit too. I usually ask them like, hey, can you send me a bio about you in case I can't find anything online? Because, there's definitely things online that I'm not going to be able to find out. But all right. So jumping right into it. Next question. You grew up basically in a restaurant. Like, what was that like growing up in a restaurant?
I always liked it. I mean, I feel, and I knew that there was a difference between my siblings and I. Like, I did actually like it when my parents would be like, okay, we have to go to the restaurant. I'd be like, yay. And then my brother and sister would be like, ugh, again, like, ugh.
Yeah.
I just always liked the vibe. The vibe was always, it is so stimulating. Like you're smelling the food, you are like seeing this action, you are seeing different people come in. Like every person is different. You're learning about people, you're interacting, it's just like so vivid and so lively. And I just always thought that the cooks are the most cool, that they were the coolest people on earth, and their backgrounds and their stories. So to me, I loved it. I mean, I really, really loved it. I always wanted to be doing something. I always wanted to be helping and doing something. I'd help do filling those like little salsas that you get with your, order. I'd be filling salsas. bagging chips, cleaning chiles, anything, anything to do, washing dishes. And, the cooks definitely liked having that.
Yeah, sure. Especially could probably pawn off those, the tedious tasks.
Who
You're
doesn't
like,
like
oh yeah,
having
you could.
hands too,
Right,
like
exactly.
hand
Yeah,
cooking,
absolutely. Yeah, I think I read that you would stand on milk crates to help like chop onions and things.
Yeah.
That's great. That's really great. So when did you realize then, after being in your parents' restaurant for so long, when did you realize that you're like, all right, this is something that I really want to do with my life?
I want to say I was 17. I want to say I was 17, and like I remember the exact sort of moment. It's like the time in high school when everybody's, you have to take your ACTs, and what are you gonna do for the rest of your life? What college are you going to? And as much as, I love school as a social setting, and then also like with subjects that or things that I would do really well. But
Yeah.
I wasn't the best student. And so I didn't know it, I feel like in that setting wasn't the best for me. And so I was kind of starting to get nervous. I'm like, what am I going to do? Because I don't know. You start getting nervous about what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happened on Saturday mornings, I would always go with my father to go pick up all the produce for the next couple of days. And I would always, pick up kind of like my own little grab bag and, go cook. I would cook like breakfast or lunch for whatever taqueria I would be at. And I was making huevos motuleños, and it just seriously was just a moment that everything sort of not stopped, but became slow motion. And I just felt like all my senses were alive. Like, how like that sort of like Spider-Man moment, when he like starts using his, that's kind of the way it felt, and like when he starts realizing all his like senses are changed. And and I like heard, my voice that I wanted to be a chef. And that was a really important just time, a very powerful time for me.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I think I read too that you talking about that in another interview, saying that you could hear the sauce that you were making
like
and everything, and
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's like like a beautiful chaos of a kitchen that you kind of fall in love with. Of like there's just noise and heat and just different smells and everything, but it's like when like when you slow things down and you really see it for what it is, it's like an orchestra. It's like this beautiful thing, and then you get snapped into reality of someone tells you to get the fuck out of the way or something like that, and then you're back into it. Like, oh yeah, I'm actually working. So then that was 17, and then at 20, or you took over as an executive chef.
Yeah, I want to say I was 20 or 21.
Okay.
Yes, for my parents' place.
How did that end up?
Skeptical to do. I was skeptical to do. I actually started as like the sous chef, and then took over as a chef. But it was also, I don't know. I thought it was pretty crazy, and I didn't realize it at the time. Again, these are things that when you're at the time you don't really realize, but now looking back, it's like how incredible to be able to do that, have that opportunity to do that. And obviously my parents think that I'm like the best. They're like, you're the best, you could do it, you could do it.
Yeah.
we
That's great. Yeah.
As probably parents always think, generally. And so getting reviewed and getting like, that was just so crazy. Looking back at it now, it's just like, wow, like it's what an opportunity to be able to do that.
Yeah. Did they just kind of like see you really busting ass as a sous chef, and they're like, all right, you're the next logical step to be executive chef, or like how did that position
They
kind
weren't
of
really happy with the chef that they did have. It just wasn't like working out. And I think it was because I mean, they did want to have me and I was like, super modest and being like, no, I can't, I'll take the sous chef position though.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. That's really great that your parents had that confidence and that faith in you that, to run their kitchen with no, I guess, formal training. I mean, of working.
I'm a 21-year-old kid, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty, I can't even imagine running a kitchen at 21. Can't really imagine running a kitchen now. But when did you decide to leave your parents' restaurant to kind of go off on your own?
I think I was there for maybe 2-3 years, maybe like something like that. And I just didn't, I wanted to learn from other people. I wanted to keep seeing what, because when you're in charge, it's very different, from there's other responsibilities, and I wanted to be able to give myself the chance again to continue to just be a cook and learn more of the craft versus just learning from myself,
Yeah, absolutely. Is your parents' restaurant still open?
No, they closed their last restaurant when the year that Mi Tocaya opened. So that was kind of it's like I think it kind of helped them as well because I guess it helped all of us, because Jalapeños, their place have been such a huge part of our lives, obviously, and saying goodbye to that, but yet still having a restaurant in a way, helped that, there's a couple of things of the first restaurant that when they close that are at Mi Tocaya that makes it seem like, there's a piece of their place at Mi Tocaya as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense. Of kind of still having a restaurant to go to where they can feel like they can kind of contribute still, and not like they weren't like being forced into retirement or anything, and they can still help and be a part of it. That's really great. And you didn't go to a formal culinary school, but you did end up going to Chef Susan Trilling's cooking school, Seasons of My Heart. What was that?
So that was actually, I mean, again, like looking back, what a great, my mom always wanted me to, and this is what's funny because it's so true for just that sort of mentality, that like, oh, you want to be a chef? Well, then you have to go to Europe or you have to be trained in the European structure, right? Which makes sense because, I mean, that is really the only structure because they're the only ones that actually did that,
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, I really hope that Mexican cuisine gets structured as such, because it is, the indigenous food is just insane. Like we were talking about chiles or like, and all the different kinds of sauces, can be broken down as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
But it was great. I mean, my mom wanted to be like, oh, why don't you, let's do a trip for you. You need to like, if you're not going to, she's like, she always wanted to send me to Paris. And I sound like such a brat when I'm just like, but I don't want to go to Paris. So bratty. Yeah, I know. I had it so tough. And she's like, okay, what about Oaxaca? I'm like, okay, I'll go to Oaxaca. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And so I went there, and Susana Trilling is just amazing. She was always, I feel like she's somebody who very much appreciates the past, but has always thought in the future. Like what she was doing then was so crazy, ridiculously ahead of its time. And so the year that I went was the year that she was just finishing her kitchen, and it's right outside of Oaxaca. And like she would have like a greenhouse and a farm and this beautiful, gorgeous house with this old school kitchen And then the neighboring Zacateca women, like Zapotecas, would be like the teacher's assistants. And so they would, I learned how to make chocolates from, cacao with a metate. We learned how to make, the 7 moles of Oaxaca. We learned how to, and just like being there. And I mean, I got to say that still to this day, it's probably the most beautiful market that I've ever seen still. It's just so vivid and so much history, so much, not just the history, but it's also because there is such a huge indigenous population there where it's living history, like this is ancestral, this is passed down from generation to generation to generation, never mind people using heirloom seeds. I mean, this is literally passed down through family to family, like when a woman gets married, her father gives the man the whole, how do you say it? Like the whole corn plant, like the whole roots and everything. So, symbolizing, hey, your family will never go hungry, like it's the start of their new life. And and this happens, it's just so beautiful. It really is. And I feel like when I was there, I was really able to be in touch with that, and it was life-changing.
I bet. I mean, it sounds really amazing. I've always wanted to go abroad and study in another country, like Italy, for pasta, or learn noodle making in Asia, something like that. I've always definitely, that's on the bucket list for sure. That's going to make it happen at some point. But would you suggest for like people coming into the industry to go to a culinary school like that, or do you think it's better just kind of jump right into a restaurant and kind of learn on the job?
Well, I think everybody is different, and that school was not kind of it was more so classes that you could take, classes that you could take, sort of a thing. Not like a school and it's, well, you're going to get graded your exams, not really like that. So, I mean, I think I would recommend anybody to live somewhere other than where they're from for, some time. I think that's I think that's really, I've really enjoyed that. And everybody is also just different with, like I said before, school wasn't the best way. It wasn't the best for me, so that's just me, that's the way, I am, I think some people do really, really, really well in school and love it and love what it has. But I mean, I feel like I go back to always like my first love affair, and that's being actually in restaurants and doing, I do better that way.
Yeah, definitely.
So it depends on the person.
It does a lot. Like I'm kind of the same way. Yeah, I'm kind of saying I'm more of like learn by doing, and that's why kitchens are always so great, because you have to learn by doing. There's no, well, read this book and you'll get it. It's, you have to do it. And like in high school, I wasn't really that great of a student either. But when I did go to culinary school after I got out of the Navy, like I did great because I knew that's what I wanted to do, and I had that drive to be a really great chef. And so it made it a little bit easier, because these were like all things that I just really wanted to learn. But then I had prior restaurant experience before that, so it was kind of like it was a little bit easier. It wasn't a completely fresh start, but yeah, I mean, like you said, it depends on the person. Sometimes it's fine just to jump right in the restaurants and learn that way. So how did you end up working for, and I'm probably going to say his name wrong, I've met him before, and I don't think I've ever heard his name pronounced, Giuseppe Tintori? Tintori?
Yes.
Did I say that right? Oh, yeah, I have met him, but I've never heard his name actually pronounced. But how did you end up working for him?
Kind of same thing. Like the way I liked to work in kitchens was, again, I mean, one of my hobby has always been, and probably because of my parents, is to go out to eat. You know, it wouldn't matter.
Mhm.
I mean, this is something that I'd be able to do on a cook's wages back when we would get paid $85 a day. You know, like
Yeah.
I found a way. You know, like you just have to
Yeah.
go with it, or you just
Yeah.
go by yourself. You know, it becomes a lot
Yeah.
cheaper.
Right.
And so,
Right.
eating his food. I mean, I had
Okay.
his food at Boca, and I just loved the restaurants, and I loved his
Hmm.
food, and I could just feel the vibes. I just really, really loved his direction with food. And so that's why I was like, I need to work here. I want to work with him. And I just
Yeah.
like went there and, just I want to work here kind of a thing.
All right. Yeah.
And I'm so happy that I did. I mean, it was probably one of my favorite um, cooking cook jobs of all time, because he's just a really, you could tell he was born to be a chef, like born to be a
Yeah.
chef. Definitely sees things. He has his own vision with food. He's, I think, a really great leader, with front and back. He really sort of understands his role as, I'm the one that's conducting the orchestra, sort of a thing,
Yeah.
and um, yeah, I mean, he just screams hospitality with the way everything that he does. So I loved my time working with him, and he continues to not only was I, there as a cook, but then I've also, have worked at another place at GT Fish when I came back from DC, and looking for
Hmm.
an executive chef position. He'd be like, yes, like you could, work part time, and while you're looking for something, like, and he's always just been a, I don't know, like a advisor of, sort of a thing. Like he continues to be my chef, I
Mentor.
should say. Yeah, like he
Yeah.
just always is such a great soundboard for and help, and it's been great.
That's really great. It's kind of like a breath of fresh air to hear of a chef that's like that, especially a head chef, and a head chef kind of at his stature. He was at Boca previously, right before GT Fish and
Yeah.
Oyster and
So
GT Prime.
he
Okay.
was the chef de cuisine at Charlie Trotter's for like 8 or 9 years, and then
Oh
he
wow.
went to Boca to be the executive chef there and partner, and then yeah, I mean,
Okay. That's what
it's
I thought. Yeah. So for everyone who's listening who does not know who he is now the executive chef of GT Fish and Oyster and GT Prime
mhm.
downtown. But yeah, excuse me. But yeah, I do know that he's a pretty great chef. And like I said, that's really nice that he was able to do that, especially coming from Charlie Trotter's, which
I know, right?
didn't have that same
No, I met a
reputation for
lot of
being.
really great people from that camp. I mean, and I think that that's
Yeah.
definitely one thing that nobody is going to deny. I mean, so many people. The guy knew how to produce spectacular people in a way, but
Yeah.
to his credit, but then also obviously to the credit of the person, but so many
Right.
great people have come out of there.
Yeah. I feel like it'd be hard not to if you put in your time. It's kind of like a linea, working there. Like it's a tough kitchen to work in, but if you put in your time and you rise the ranks and you really prove yourself, like you're going to learn a lot and you're going to come out
Mm-hmm.
probably doing something pretty amazing, like a lot of people have. Same with Charlie Trotter's and everything else. So,
And I would hope that places don't like sort of get away with certain things. I mean, the culture has been changing, like
it has been, yeah.
So I mean, for at that time, I mean, it was normal, right? So
Right, yeah.
and so yeah.
I mean, it's good that we're moving past that without losing, I guess, the quality of food that chefs
Mm-hmm.
can produce.
Well, being an asshole doesn't have anything to do with the quality of the food. I mean, it just doesn't.
That's very true. That's true. That's true. So when did you realize it was time to take a chance on yourself and do Meet Tocaya?
I always like to put it like as, I mean, one through failure and lack of opportunity. That's
Okay.
how. Because I mean,
Okay.
I actually never really wanted to have my own restaurant. Like I
Oh,
had
wow.
seen what it did to my parents. I mean, my parents are still married and everything, but I mean, shit, did I see them fight, like, I mean, it's really difficult, I mean, relationships are already the most difficult thing that you're going to do. Add a business on top of it, it's hard, especially a business like a restaurant. So I don't think I never really wanted to have my own place. I wanted to be a part of be part of a restaurant group of some sort, like something like a local restaurant group, like something that like I had when I was in DC, as well. So, I was kind of always looking for that. And with the last position that I had, didn't end so well. For as well as it went, it didn't end so well. And it was really sort of, it's like going through a very public, very, very public breakup. And that seemed to be like really sort of ugly and volatile. And, there was things that like I just couldn't say, like that I couldn't like, and not that you should anyway, like I didn't want to be a gossip queen.
Right.
And it was really scary, like I thought that, especially as a woman, like I really thought that people were gonna be like, see, like she's difficult to work with. This is why women chefs are difficult to work with, and like all this kind of stuff. Like, I mean, all these things were going through my head, like, and I had given 2 years of my life, and like my all, and especially like leading up to like this opening, and still the first month, like, I mean, I was working the most insane hours of my whole life, and so like when that came to a complete halt, not only was it like a complete shock to my body, but it was also just such a mind bend as well, because I was just depressed. And so after coming off of that, I'm like, okay, let's see, and then also I only wanted to cook Mexican food. So, I mean, when you know that you only want to specialize in one thing and dedicate yourself to that, it makes the pond or the body of water a lot smaller. And so I kind of was like seeing what was out there. There were a lot of opportunities with owners of buildings or real estate where they want to be like, oh, well, basically you would be the chef owner. Bullshit. I mean, it doesn't really work that way. There's no, either you own something or you don't, like, don't give me this like sweat equity bullshit and tell me about profit sharing where there's no profit in restaurants. And how am I going to be able to know who does your books, or if these are real numbers or what, or if they like, when are they going to get around to doing it, all in the meantime while I am like giving up I mean, I know how much work everything involves, like, I mean, you're working an insane amount of hours and it doesn't stop, it doesn't stop. And I have, I already had 2 children at the time, and, so I knew that wasn't for me. And really it was through support of other chefs and chef owners, people like Chef Giuseppe and, Chef Ricky from Antique Taco. I mean, just so many different, chef friends that I did have. And I mean, they really sort of brought me up, and they were like, you're ready. You should go for it. You're ready to have your own place. So honestly, they sort of like gave me that sort of confidence back that I kind of lost. And through that, I just kept on talking to more and more and more and more people. And next thing you know, like it was literally a year from when I stopped working to, it took a little bit over a year. And the next thing you knew, I was opening up Tocaya. It was pretty insane.
Yeah, that's really great though. I mean,
I'm busy, I go for it.
That's good. That's definitely a good quality to have. What were your goals for the restaurant when you first opened? Like, what were your intentions? What did you want to achieve with Tocaya?
I wanted it. I mean, I wanted it to be ours. I wanted it to be a Mexican restaurant that in Antojeria. I wanted wanted to serve and share the food that I love.
Mhm.
That was the goal, like that was the goal
Yeah.
to have a space where I can cook the food that I love and continue to learn and explore a cuisine that inspires me, that I want to continue to learn and share, and and that was what I wanted, and
Yeah.
where also I'd be able to kind of combine the professional cook in me, the home cook in me, so I always say that, like, I would say that it's Tocaya was like the place where I got to be the mom, the wife, the professional cook, the all of that, into like
Yeah.
one super self, like that's my alter ego, where I could do all of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So that was the goal.
Yeah. Have those goals changed at all since now you've been open for a little while now? And what are future goals for Mitakaya?
Once I feel like once she actually became real, like through when we right around about like the opening, things like that, like I'm like, I really feel like I would love nothing more than to like have, when people are visiting Chicago, or when people like, I wanted it to become a staple, like to be able to become a staple when somebody's visiting, or like a special occasion, or just a neighborhood be like, oh, you like Mexican food? Yo, you gotta go to Mi Tocaya. Like you gotta go to Mi Tocaya. Like, don't leave the city if you like Mexican food and you're like going out to eat, go there, like, because it's like this thing where I feel like Mexicans have that when you ask, a Mexican American, a Mexican, like, oh, well, who has the best Mexican, where's the best Mexican restaurant? Or, they'll be like, where's your favorite for Mexican food? They'll usually be like, la casa de mi mamá, casa de mi tío, tía, abuela. Do you know what I mean? And I like here I thought I could, I'm a Mexican mother. I want them to say Mi Tocaya. It would be an honor.
Right. Yeah.
It would be an honor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So obviously your concept and your menu is more I don't want to say approachable, or comfort food in a way, because it's kind of more based off your home
Nostalgic.
cooking and everything. Yeah, nostalgic. Yeah. How do you feel about Rick Bayless or Chef Carlos Gatan, who I had last week, and they have their more upscale versions of Mexican, Hispanic food, and how do you feel about taking a cuisine that's more, I don't want to, it is more nostalgic, it's more like comfort food, and kind of make it more fine dining?
Fine dining is a different style of dining. It's not a cuisine. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And as for, I think Mexican food is brilliant in a fine dining format. It's, it has everything there for that. It's, the flavors are like no other, like the colors are insane, like there's so much to play with. Mexico is one of the, sits on the land that is probably one of the most bountiful fucking lands in the world, like it's insane to have. So it's great in a fine dining format. I didn't want to have a fine dining restaurant, like I didn't, that's not the style that I like. I love fine dining, but it just wasn't for me,
Right.
What do I think about what Chef Carlos does? I think what he does is awesome, like his passion and his respect, and his humbleness towards food is incredible. He has such it's who you call in Spanish, es un pan de Dios. Like he's un pan de Dios, being like, or un bizcocho, like bizcocho is like a sweet cake, like it's just, he's just such a great person. And he really is like someone who, and he has that approach with his food. So I think what he does is great, and as for Rick Bayless, we owe a lot to him here in Chicago. You know, like he's one of the people who have changed the misconception of Mexican cuisine that it is poor people food, or like, how could anybody call any, like, you know, cuisine is its cuisine. It has nothing to do with anybody could put a value on what they're doing. You know, who sets the value? We set the value. So let us set the value, you know. And I think that he was someone who 100% changed that and gave so many opportunities to many people to do. I mean, how many people have come out of his, like, as cooks, you know, and opening up their own restaurants, you know, I mean, so, and I mean, it's pretty apparent, not just from meeting him, but also like in his, if you've ever spent 2 minutes with him, I mean, he is an insane lover of the culture, and has nothing but mad respect and love, and so passionate. So, I mean, it's great to have somebody like that.
I think it's really great with taking like Mexican cuisine or any Hispanic cuisine and making it fine dining is really great, because I feel like it beats the crap out of French fine dining, of, like you said, the colors and the flavors, and just the whole realm of flavor of that cuisine is incredible. And, you know, French, it's like, here's some bread and butter with some meat. Not dumb. I love French food.
I mean, every cuisine is different and has their, you know, but you know, I think that there's this thing where people think that there could only be one Mexican chef or one Mexican restaurant or one, like, that's one, not true. Two, very ignorant. I mean, there's so many different, I have a lot of Mexican friends who are chefs who we're all extremely different in our what we share in common is that we want to cook Mexican cuisine and we love it and we want to, but there's, you know, every artist is different. Just because you're a painter does not mean that you should paint. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, there's room for everyone because everybody is different. You know, I think that my approach is very much, cooking like a woman, like a mother, like a bruja, you know? So, I mean, what I do is very different. You know, I think that as any artist, you need to really understand what you want to convey. I mean, that's what you're making, you know? So there's room for everybody. So I 100% support anybody who and welcome anybody who wants to cook Mexican food, but I don't like when people don't do the work of actually. So many times it happens, you know, where it's like, oh, I'm going to call this mole rojo. It's like, this is not mole rojo. Don't use words that you don't understand, you know, like, you need to understand what is mole rojo? Where does it come from? Like, why are there variations? Before you do something, you know, like you have to, I just think that you have to do that, you know, and if not, then, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Then
it's easy to see through those people, I feel, or those chefs or restaurants
not generally. No, because I mean, people love Mexican food, but they don't know shit
That's
about
true.
it. You know what I mean? And so who is
that
the
is true.
judge out there? You know, like, it's not that it should be judged, but it's like a lot of people do some fake things that they don't even, and if the public doesn't know, like, if I tell you that this is fucking green and it's actually red, you know, like, how are they going to, you know, they just take their word for it. So that's why it's it's complete mistrust.
Yeah, no, I agree. I get ahead of myself sometimes of like, because not that I'm an expert in Mexican cuisine, but like I definitely had really good authentic food and the, you know, basic whatever that's not very good, and since I know a little bit about cooking, that I can kind of see through that. But you're right, that with the general public of it's a lot.
I mean, how would you? I mean,
how
it's like, oh, okay, if I put something on the menu that says prosciutto, you know, and this is just like in general. If a chef puts something on the
Yeah,
menu
right.
that says prosciutto and it's not prosciutto, it's fucking bacon. Like you would be
Right.
like, this isn't prosciutto, this is bacon. And so
Right.
that is what happens all the time in Mexican
Yeah.
restaurants. Like I see that
that
all the
makes,
time. And
I'm
to
sure.
that I say, shame on you, shame.
Or like saying that it has truffles in it when it's just truffle oil.
You know, it's deeper than that. Like even that, it's
Well,
like,
I
well, at
know.
least you're, yeah.
Yeah, I know it's definitely much deeper than that. That was just my basic analogy, but yeah, it's very unfortunate that that kind of stuff happens and that people don't know how food
so,
came
like, the
here.
chef has the responsibility to do that because if not, you're spreading lies. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
People trust you to be like, oh, okay, that's what that is.
Yeah, and I feel like you're definitely considered one of those people that have been kind of a pioneer in, from what I read at least, of being a pioneer and giving people that education for the range and variety of Mexican cuisine,
Mm-hmm.
which is very impressive. So kudos to you.
Thanks.
Were there, you kind of mentioned it before, just kind of being in your head of the conceptions of being a woman, but did you like actually see or face any challenges for being a woman or being Hispanic or both?
Yes, I have. It's a double-edged sword, I feel like, because again, there's so much that when I look back and realize, it's different, like when you look back and it's like you're watching this footage of you, right? And you're like, oh man, I could have done this or I could have done that. And like, oh wow, that really was really bad. Like, why didn't I say anything? Or why didn't, it's one of those things where for me, I did, there were times like, I'll give you this as an example, like I was always kind of like, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm setting out. This is the time I'm going to work here and I want to learn as much as I can. And, like that was my top priority. It wasn't to, hang out with cooks and to after work and go fuck around, be like, it's not that I don't, I work a lot. I have a really great set of friends. I have like, and it's, I don't know. It just, I knew what I was there for and I wanted to learn as much as I can, and that was always my goal. So a lot of times I would put my head down, know what I have to do. Like, okay, like just be thinking, I would just be consumed by, this is my prep. I got to do this and then I got to do that. I got to learn this, like sort of a thing. Set up, service, like the last thing I'm going to do is, so like, I feel like I was always so into that. Like, did I feel and see things? Like, yeah, of course. I remember, like my first professional cooking job, like, I know that, I heard the male cooks, like gossiping and bullshitting about them not liking that. I was always kind of like the only woman too, like other than in pastry, and so like, but I really didn't care. I'm like, I don't care about these guys. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, hey, like, let the work speak for yourself, like, and if you have something to say it, then say it to my face, like, I don't know, but I feel like I kind of have that personality, like I kind of feel like I kind of have that, I don't know, built that into myself, right? And so as I would be moving up, like they would talk shit, but then they would also sort of be like, okay, well, I would earn their respect, like, and sort of that things would be shut out really easily because I would be better than them, like I would be a better line cook. I would always have my shit together. I would always be tasting, like always. And chefs, like for a chef, like a chef loves that, like loves nothing more than to have dedicated, focused cooks.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
the dream team, right? And so like, and I also always tried to work in kitchens where I felt that way, so I mean, I wouldn't work somewhere that I did not feel that way. Even I don't care how good the food and who's singing you praises, you know, I don't want to work for
Right.
an asshole, you know, like I just don't.
Right.
No, thank you.
That's fair. Yeah.
And during that time too, like I would see, so like I always feel guilty because I would see other mistreatment of women, and where it wouldn't happen to me. You know, I feel like I should have been there for them, and I wasn't, you know, like I was so caught up in myself that
Yeah.
I just kind of didn't even really, you know, so I'd say I regret that, you know, like I wish I would have, I could have, you know, I could have definitely, I feel like changed something, you know, and I didn't, you know, and I didn't think about that back then. You know, I really didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And same thing, like I remember there would be times where like there was a couple occasions where I definitely know that there was a chef making a pass at me, you know, and like I kind of was like shoved it off as being like, no, I gotta go. No, like, you know, like that's really, and I feel like that's fine. I never got anything that was escalated or anything. I feel like I made it pretty obvious, you know, but
yeah,
you know, that's something that like, hey, as your chef shouldn't be doing that, you know, like it's, especially if, you know, like I get it. Like, yes, I'm a sentimental person, you know, so like I could get it. Like if you, but can't you read the signs if somebody doesn't, like you're taking advantage of something, like you know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, I think there's things like that. And then as, I mean, I've just seen a lot of, I've seen a lot of that. Has things happened to me per se? No, no. And I do think that my time in Chicago has been really well, like earning people's respect, and I've met some great cooks, and you know, so all that has been good. In DC, it sucked, you know, like it was extremely boys club. I think it was kind of changing by the time that I was leaving. I mean, my executive chef position was by a, you know, it was a divorced couple, but I mean, Jackie was very much the head bitch in charge, you know, like she was, and she's the one, like, like it's not a coincidence that a woman gave me my job, you know, like it was just extremely difficult trying to get work as a sous chef and as an executive chef, positions that I was regularly being interviewing or trying to get, you know, like, and there was nothing more apparent than interviewing for management positions like those, when you get questions like, how do you feel about managing men? You know, like, the fuck, what do you mean? You know, but at that time I did, again, like at that time it was just so normal. I'd be like, I feel, I would answer the question accordingly, you know, and now if I get that question, I'd be like, fuck you, next question, you know.
It's like, don't you mean how I would manage people, or how I would just manage?
So like, I don't, you know, a lot of things like that, a lot of things that I wish I would have, you know, as a sous chef. One place, I mean, it was just, I mean, I had people tell me when I first got the sous chef position, you know, that they weren't going to, I mean, laughed in my face and said they weren't going to listen to me because I was a woman. Like, so try that for in your face. Like, that's not subtle, right? That's not subtle at all.
No, it's definitely not.
And I fired them, you know, and then threatened me, like literally threatening me.
Jesus.
You know, I feel like if I wasn't, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like if I wasn't so fucking gangster, I wouldn't have been able to handle that shit. You know what I mean? I'd be like, okay, what are you gonna do, baby? You know, like, like try it. You know, like, And so, I mean, I've seen a lot of that, and it sucks. And also, just opening up the restaurant, like, again, it was totally, you know, like when I would have these meetings with. Even interviewing here, like for chef positions, like it was always sort of like, you know, the male ego is pretty big. How do you think you're going to, like, it's like, what? And then also,
why does that matter?
You know, when somebody's trying to handle you, and it's suspicion obviously cannot be proved, right? That, that I think it's because I'm a woman, you know, and, you know, when I would be pregnant, I felt so scared to tell my employers that I'm pregnant, and it was such uncharted territory. I didn't even know who to talk to because I didn't know anybody.
I'm sure.
You know, like, so, or even what to expect. The second time I knew what to expect, you know, but first time I didn't, you know, like I literally gave birth like 2 hours after I came home working the line on a Saturday, you know? So,
wow.
I mean, it was, you know, it's hard, you know? And when I was opening up the restaurant, it was nothing but, you know, getting quotes from people being like, is your father around? Is your husband around? Like, I'm like, who are you looking for? I'm right here. Like, just me, you know, like,
man.
So yeah, there's a lot, you know, and there's a lot that needs to change, you know, and even in the kitchen culture in general, like when it's changing that mentality of, you know, when cooks are talking and if they're saying like, oh, don't be a pussy, or like, oh yeah, like it's like, okay, it's literally what they try to seek all the time, constantly as a heterosexual man, you know, like, and it's like, you're calling this weak, you know, like I don't want to have people talking about women like that. You know? You know, I feel like any society that respects women is going to be a much more prosperous society. And so, like, what can I do about that is hopefully change the way males may think like that who do work with me, you know, like to change the way that they may look at their mother or their daughters or the women in their lives, you know, so not just so it was kind of like something that I've always wanted to do, you know, you know, but it took me a long time to get there.
Well, that's great that you did get there, and sorry you had to put up with all that shit. It's crazy. I do think the culture of everything is getting better. I think there's been a really big push for it. We have a long way to go, but I feel like we're heading in the right direction, which is at least a start.
Progress.
Yeah, there's definitely progress. And it's really funny with the whole woman boss or chef. Like when I first started my like professional career, like all the badass like line cooks were women that I had to learn from. And then like my good friend Juanita, who was like, I moved here with her to Chicago for the first time from Jacksonville, and she was my sous chef there, and I learned a ton from her. And so, like, I don't know, I'm not trying to act all high and mighty, but like that, like
but they
having a woman,
yeah,
having a woman above me was never like an issue of like why I should be better than her. And it's like, no, I can see her like kicking ass on a Saturday night on Saute Station. It's like, well, that's exactly who I need to, you know, be next to. And so it is funny with any ego with anybody who wants to try to get in the way. It's just like, just sit down and shut the fuck up for a little bit. Like it's right. Yeah. But okay. So last question before we get in the lightning round, I ask all my guests this. What is your most relied kitchen tool besides your knife?
Besides just your knife.
Yeah. That's a given.
Can I say my hands? Or does it have to be a tool?
It's got to be something.
Spoons.
I mean, hands is a good one, but
spoons.
Spoons, okay. Yeah, spoons is a good one. Okay, yeah, spoons. Absolutely. All right, spoons. Gotta have good spoons. Absolutely. Okay. Well, now that
they're round, sensual. They have curves. You know how to. If you know how to use it properly, it'll do wonders for you.
Absolutely. That is a great analogy. I haven't heard that. That's really good. I'm going to start using that. I'm going to take that from you. I'm going to spread that. All right. Well, now it is time for our lightning round. All right. So lightning round, try to answer as fast as you can. Whatever comes to your mind first. All right. Number one, what is a Mexican dish that everyone absolutely should try?
I mean, I'm going to say mole.
I know it might be a tough one, but mole?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm going to say
that's fair.
Real mole made from scratch by someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah. I've made mole a few times. I'm not going to say I know what I'm doing yet. It's definitely, I really want to, it does. I want to learn how to make it because when it's really good, it's just like one of the best things ever. And I have yet to achieve that, so I'm definitely got to keep practicing. But okay, number 2, what is your favorite activity on a day off?
Snuggling with my kids, sleeping, and eating.
There you go. Those are all good ones. All right, number 3, what is the scariest animal?
Scariest animal. I hate to do this to my fellow friends, but I would say that there's something about snakes that I'm just like, I don't know if it would be scary, but it's more so like, it's just so insane to me. It's literally just a non-ending line that knows how to use every single, like it's, so I don't know if scary would be, but I would just be like, Jesus, like wrap your head around this.
That's fair. I'm glad everyone says, most people say sharks, and I don't understand why. I mean, I do, but I don't. Right? That's how I feel.
Yeah.
All right, number 4. What is your guilty pleasure show?
Right. Well, I go through phases. Like when I get obsessed with something. Right now, it's Modern Family. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. I've been watching that too. I was so happy when I saw they put the whole series on Hulu. I'm like, thank God.
Yeah,
I love that show. It's so funny.
Sophia's the best.
Right? She is so funny. All right, number 5. What is your dream vacation?
Dream vacation. You know what? I'm going to keep it basic because I love the water. Anything that's by the water. I mean, I love being by the water.
Yeah, that's fair.
Beaches
Absolutely. I'm the same way.
Ocean.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up on Lake Michigan, and so that's not like an ocean, but it's definitely hard
it's a beach.
Yeah, well, say that to someone who lived on the ocean, they will completely disagree with you.
I know. When I be like, oh yeah, I go to the beach in Chicago, and they'd be like, that's not a beach.
You don't. Right. That's not a beach. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, I get annoyed with it too. Yeah, right. Like, get out of here. All right, number 6. What is something that you own that you need to throw out?
Something that I own that I need to throw out. Clothes that doesn't fit me anymore.
I'm sure we all have that.
Yeah, I would
we all have clothes that need to go, that just need to go away.
I'm pretty good about only keeping things that I need, except for clothes that doesn't fit me anymore.
That's fair. All right, number 7. What is your most referenced cookbook?
I have a couple. I would say that it is, there's one that's called Historia de los Moles, and it's just really, I tend to lean for books, and also, so Historia de los Moles, which is not recipes, it's all just following sort of the movement of people and geography, and like who brought in spices and how they got circulated and how certain sauces were made up. So really, really love that one. And there's another one that is La Comida Prehispánica Recetas de Veracruz. It's really amazing. There's like recipes of monkey and iguana, and it's just insane. Yeah, like, so I like reading that one too. And every chapter has like a huge long sort of explanation of the next 5 recipes, you know, like sort of a thing.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. Yeah, last week or 2 weeks ago, I guess, Chef Carlos, he had said that he like grew up eating iguana, and I had never heard that before, and so I was like, oh, iguana, that like definitely caught my attention. I was like, well, I mean, it makes sense. It's got meat on it, you can eat it. So, all right, number 8. What is the most underrated food city?
Most underrated food city. I mean, I feel like I'm also going to be intentional with this. I mean, it doesn't have to be United States, right?
No, yeah, anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I would say two. So I would go San Luis from Mexico because I just
Okay.
think that, you know, I'm just always so sick of everything. Like, don't get me wrong, Oaxaca and Puebla and, you know, Mexico City and Tulum, they're all great. But I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, I just have a lot of mad respect and things that happen in San Luis. And, you know, it's a piece of my history and my family and my ancestors. So I would say San Luis.
Absolutely.
And then also, I don't know enough to name like a city specifically, but I feel like Indian cuisine is insanely delicious and I love. And anything having to do with India, their culture and their history and like how they do their culture of how they do food. I mean, I think it's really, really crazy and really beautiful, and I would want to know more.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's a good one. I love Indian food too. I would love to learn more about
I'm
their
stalking
cuisine and
the friend Margaret Pak from Patu, and like she's there right now, and you have to follow her and see all her posts. I'm just like, oh my god, it makes me feel like I'm there. It's really beautiful.
You have to share her Instagram with me so I can look her up. All right. Number 10. What is your favorite season for menu development?
My favorite season is always the season I'm in.
All right.
Sorry.
Fair enough. That's okay. It's okay. All right. Number 11. That makes sense. Totally. All right. Number 11. What is a movie that always makes you cry?
I cry all the time in like almost any movie. So
movie?
Yes. Yeah, seriously, I do.
That's fair.
But
my fiance is the same way.
It's really easy to make me cry. You know, there just needs to be really raw emotion, and then I'll be there.
All right. All right. Number 12. Who would play you in a movie about your life?
I have no idea. Yeah, I don't know.
I figured you'd say.
I don't think I know too many actresses' names that are like.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like you would have said. I'm not going to be able to say her. Sophia. Gloria, the actress. So.
Yeah. Well.
I can't remember her last name.
Yeah, that's wishful thinking.
It's a movie, you know.
I don't know. I'm trying to think. I don't know. You know who I would want? I would want. I know I would want a coming up Latina actress. I'll say that.
Okay, makes sense. All right, 13. Last question. What is the worst movie about chefs?
You know, I think, what was it fucking called? It was with Bradley Cooper. Do you remember when he played a chef?
Burnt? Yeah, Burnt.
That movie was terrible. Yeah, that movie
really? I like that.
Really? I was just like,
good.
Really?
I didn't think it was that bad.
Like,
it was a little excessive. There was a quote in there that I really enjoyed. It wasn't a quote, but it's when he's eating at Burger King, and the woman that he wants to be his sous chef is meeting him there, and he asks her if she wants anything, and she's like, "No, I don't eat at places like this. Why would I do that?" And
sounds like something
he's like, but he's like, "Why? What's the difference between what they do and what we do?" And that just kind of hit with me. Of like, yeah, that's what they're trying to do. They're putting out the food that they want to and do it consistently, depending on where you go. But it just made sense to me. I was like, that was a good like analogy of just someone doing something different, even though it's fast food. But either way, yeah. The movie itself is kind of whatever. But I really like that part.
It just paints that picture again of like, I don't know. This is what like, I don't know. But yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, it's okay. No, it's fine. It's okay. That was the all the questions I have for you. So thank you so much for doing this with me and being here with me tonight. I really appreciate it. Even though we're not that far away, we're probably like
I know
50 feet away from each other right now.
Yes,
but
we're keeping it social distance.
Yes, absolutely. We're keeping it safe. But yeah, thank you so much again for being here. Thank you everyone for watching. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the like button, bell for notifications, all that good stuff so you never miss out on any future content.
Thanks for
Chef,
having me.
Yeah, thanks again. We look forward to Mi Tocaya opening up fully, hopefully soon. We can hope for it. Unfortunately, we are moving away from this area, so we're not going to be right around the corner too much longer, but we'll definitely still be coming by for sure. So thank you, everyone, again, and thank you for joining me, and I hope everyone has a good night. So everyone take care, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.